What is up, my Shadowverse soldiers, and welcome back to another Shadowverse Evolve video. Alright, in this video we're going to be going over the cute starter deck that's going to be coming out October 11th with this Cinderella Girls crossover set that's going to be coming to Shadowverse Evolve, so let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, so the first card we're going to be looking at is PCS Shimamura Yuzuki. So she's a 7-cost 4/4. She has a fanfare ability, so when she comes into play, choose up to 1 Q follower with an original cost of 4 or less, and up to 1 Q follower with an original cost of 2 or less from your graveyard, put them onto the field, and give them +1/+1. She also has an activate ability, Lesson 1. You can add 3 to your leader's health, and this effect can only be used once per turn. Alright, so outside of a legendary card that has a wall of text, you're able to choose 2 Q followers, one of them being 4 or less and the other 2 or less, and then being put onto the field. And they also get a little buff too from this ability too. And then if you're a little low on health and you're getting into the late game, you can go ahead and use that lessen ability to get rid of one of those tokens in your EX area, and you can heal 3. Next up, we have PCS Igarashi Kyoko. So she's a 4-cost 4/4. She has ward, and when she comes into play, you choose a follower on the enemy field and you give a -X/-X. X is equal to the number of Q followers on your field. You can also activate for Lesson 1 to choose a follower on the enemy field and give it -1/-1, and this effect can only be used once per turn. Alright, so this looks like one of the cards you're going to be getting off of the Shimamura effect, and then you can give it -3/-3. I think that's the most that you can get, including, the number of Q cards you're going to be playing off of that ability. And then if you haven't finished that follower off, you can go ahead and use Lesson 1 to give it an extra -1/-1 on top of that. And then next up, we have PCS Kohinata Miho. So she's a 2-cost 2/2. As long as there are 3 or more Q followers on the field, this card has Rush. And then she has a fanfare ability, so when she comes into play, you look at the top card of your deck. From there, you may put a Q card to your hand. So not only are you going to be playing this card as well off of the effect, but you're also going to be adding another card to your hand, especially if this card is already in your cemetery and stuff like that. So you can get a card to your hand from doing that entire combo. Alright, so for those of you visual learners here's a nice chart. Thank you, Shadowverse Evolve, for providing this for us. But with the 7-cost card, you're going to be putting out the 2-cost and the 4-cost with what you can for your fanfare ability. The 2-cost is going to add a card to your hand because, of course, your entire deck is going to be cute cards. And then with the 4-cost, you have a nice ward card with removal added onto it. Alright, so let's see what these additional cute cards that are going to be supporting the legendaries. And the first one we're going to be looking at is Yokohama Chika. So it's a 1-cost 2/2. She has a fanfare ability, so when she comes into play, if there are 5 or more Q cards in your cemetery, this card gets +1/+2 and ward. So nice if you have 5 cards in your cemetery, this card becomes a 3/4 with ward, so that's pretty good for a 1-cost card. Alright, so next up we have Sakurai Momoka. So she's a 2-cost 2/2. You can evolve her for 1, but when she comes into play, you can spend 2 play points and use 1 less, and this card gets +1/+1. So if you haven't watched any of the other starter deck videos, there's going to be some sort of card like this in every archetype that's going to be helping the other decks. So this is a card that you can get off of the legendary ability, and then you can play it and then use those 2 extra play points if you have them. It's okay if you don't, but you can use them, and then the 1 token that you have in your EX area to give it a 3/3, and then when you evolve it, it becomes a 4/4. So looking at the Momoka Evolve, so she turns into a 3/3. On Evolve, you look at the top 3 cards of your deck. From among them, you may put a Q card to your hand and the rest of the bottom of your deck in any order. So making this card a 4/4 is already hard enough to especially get into it, but it does have a pretty nice Evolve effect to go ahead and look at top 3 and add a Q card to your hand, and you might, whatever situation the card might get for, you might go ahead and just get a Q card that you might need for the very next turn. Or if you're going against maybe a slower deck, you can find a late game Q card and put it into your hand. Alright, next up we have Ike Bukuro Akiha. So she's a 3-cost 3/3. You can evolve her for 1. When she comes into play, you choose another cute follower on the field and you give a +1 defense. So a pretty interesting ability. It looks like you're going to be using this ability for mainly Chika, just so it has ward and it becomes a 5 defense ward. So you just got to make sure you have those 5 Q cards into your cemetery. Then you can play 1, and then you can play this right afterwards, and it'll be a 5 defense ward. Alright, looking at the Akiha Evolve, so she turns into a 4/4, and on Evolve you discard a Q card from your hand, and then you choose a follower on the enemy field and deal 3 damage to it, and then you draw a card. So you're discarding a cute card to deal 3 damage to something, and then you get to draw a card right after it. So your cute card initially turns into like a Trail of Light, which is cool, and then you get to deal 3 damage to something. Next up we have Kurahara Nene. So she's a 5-cost 3/4. You can evolve her for 1, she has ward, and when she comes into play, you choose a follower from the enemy field and deal 3 damage to it. So another 5-cost follower that could potentially go in the Garyu deck. Let's see what her evolve does for the Q deck. Looking at the Nene Evolve, so she becomes a 4/5. She still has Ward, and on Evolve you can spend 3 play points to choose a cute follower from your graveyard and put it onto the field. Alright, so a pretty interesting ability. You essentially paid 8 altogether to get a cute follower from your graveyard. So you want to get a big follower from this effect, and whatever follower that you get, you want that follower to have some sort of crazy fanfare. Alright, moving on, we have Damyoji Karin. So she's a 3-cost 3/3. She has Ward, and when she comes into play, you discard a cute card from your hand, and this card gets +2 defense, and then you draw a card. So it looks like the cute cards are going to be filtering themselves pretty much. Whatever cute card is pretty useless in your hand and not doing too much, you can go ahead and pitch it and draw a new card. And then later on, you can use the last card that we just looked at, the Nene Evolve, to go ahead and put it back into play. But it seems like you're going to be filtering a whole bunch with this cute deck. Alright, next up we have Amai Kana. So she's a 2-cost 2/2, and you can evolve her for 1. And looking at the Kana Evolve, so she turns into a 3/3, and on Evolve you look at the top card of your deck. From there you may reveal a card and add it to your hand. If it's a cute card, you add 2 to your leader's health. So not only are we adding a card to our hand, but we're also adding 2 to our leader's defense as long as the card is a cute card, which it should since we're running this in the cute deck. So it's pretty interesting that we can spend a total of 3 play points to heal 2 and then draw a card. Alright, next up we have Kobayaki Sai. So she's a 1-cost 1/2, and when she comes into play, you choose another Dorimus follower on your field and you give it +1/+1. Alright, so if you were to ask me personally what the practical use for this card is to be pitched, because spending 1 to give a follower +1/+1 is nice, but so far we haven't seen any followers that have like crazy rush or like crazy wards. I know with the 1-cost follower, the Chica, it's going to be a huge ward, and I think with how we're wanting to set up the deck, yes, we want to do the legendary combo, but like, you know, just to survive, having that 1-cost as like a, you know, a 4/5 and just making it bigger and bigger throughout the game and leaving it upright if your opponent doesn't have the spells to remove it, I think is a very good card to have on your field. Alright, but looking at Shina no Ryoko, she's a 2-cost 2/3. She has a strike ability to add 2 to your leader's health, but when she comes into play, if there are 3 or more Dorimus followers on your field, this card gets +1 attack and rush. A pretty interesting card to gain rush. Just make sure you have those Dorimus followers on the field so you can go ahead and play her in gaining 2. So you spend 2 to gain 2, and then you can potentially remove a follower off the field. Alright, so looking at Mizumoto Yukari, so she's a 4-cost 4/4 fanfare, so when she comes into play, you can choose one of the following. You can either 1, choose an amulet from your enemy field and destroy it, or 2, draw a card. Alright, so it's very nice when I see cards with a multiple choice ability, of course, but this card seems very situational for the first ability, but it is nice that we have that second ability where it can just be used at any time. We can spin forward to just draw a card. This kind of seemed bad to do that, but if we're on a very tempo play, it doesn't feel bad to just go ahead and replace the card you just played. Alright, and next up we have Hayasaka Mirie. So she's a 3-cost 4/3, and if there are 5 or more Dorimus cards in your graveyard, this card gains rush. And when she comes into play, you look at the top 3 cards of your deck. From among them, you may put a card to the top of your deck and put the rest of your graveyard. Alright, so this is going to be your ramp card for their graveyard. So not only are you going to look at the top 3 and choose 2 of the cards to put into your graveyard and keep 1 at the top so you can draw it, you have a pretty nice stat line card that's a 3-cost 4/3. And then we have Prayer on a Cold Night. So it's a 4-cost quick spell. You can choose a follower from the enemy field and banish it, and if there's a cute follower on your field, you add 3 to your leader's health. So of course, if you're pairing this up with this deck, this is pretty good for spot removal in case you're lacking it, and then as long as you have a follower on your field, you get to heal 3 as well. Alright soldiers, well that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. It seems like the cute deck could use a little more like power to make it a little stronger, but it seems like you're just kind of working off that 1-cost that has 5 cards in the cemetery to go ahead and buff it up and have a huge ward and then swing, and to make sure your opponent can't really swing into it too heavily. But outside of that, it seems like the cute deck is okay at best, but it seems like the cool one is the best one out of all of them. Well, alright guys, make sure you're safe in whatever you do tonight and safe whatever you do for the rest of the year. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Yeah. TRINN. Just to get you away. What I got to do. What I got to do. Just to get you away. What I got to do. What I got to do. Just to get you away. You pull me too close, now we hesitate. Every single move you make, it makes me feel like